Hello, movie lovers! Today, we are going to recap a dark, gripping, and psychologically intense story about Ryan, a quiet girl who looks innocent, harmless, and almost invisible to the world. But behind her soft face hides years of pain, anger, rejection, and a dangerous desire for revenge. After losing the people and things she loves most, Ryan's broken mind begins to twist reality, turning every insult, every betrayal, and every humiliation into fuel for something terrifying. This story is packed with suspense, shocking decisions, emotional breakdowns, and moments that will keep you guessing what Ryan will do next. So stay with me until the end, because this recap is going to be intense from the very beginning. Let's start. The story opens on a girl named Ryan, a quiet, gentle-looking young woman with childlike innocence written all over her face. She doesn't like trouble and appears soft-hearted to everyone around her. But what she hides inside is something no one could ever imagine, because deep down, she wishes she could get rid of anyone who upsets her. We learn that she keeps a list, a kill list, full of names of the people she hates and wishes she could erase from her life. Like the girl who works at the supermarket and ruins her mood every day, or her coworkers who treat her with no respect. Even her own sister, Saren, who ignores her messages and acts like she doesn't exist. And then there's her mother who walked out on them when she was still a child. She still hasn't forgotten Julia, the classmate who bullied her all throughout school, making fun of her every chance she got. Later, we find Ryan with her father in the hospital as he undergoes treatment. When she rushes to the nurse for help after his condition suddenly worsens, she finds the nurse busy arguing with someone and completely ignoring her pleas. By the time she returns to the room, her father is already gone. Shocked and heartbroken, Ryan leaves the hospital in a total fog, then breaks down in the car, filled with rage and wishing the entire world would just disappear. At her father's funeral, her sister Saren shows up and sits beside her without saying a word. Then, as Ryan greets guests, she suddenly freezes when she spots Julia approaching with her friends, the same girl who tormented her for years. She quickly walks away before Julia notices her. After the funeral, Saren tells Rhiannon that they need to sell their father's house. Rhiannon is stunned and tells her she still lives there, but the real shock comes when Saren reveals that Julia is the one who will be helping them sell the house. At that moment, Saren cuts the conversation short, clearly not wanting to discuss the house any further, and she leaves Rhiannon standing there alone. Later that night, while riding the bus, Rhiannon opens Julia's Instagram profile and scrolls through her picture-perfect posts. Photos that show a happy, successful life, while Julia is the very person who shattered her self-esteem and ruined her childhood. 10 days later, Ryan finally returns to work. We learn she works as a receptionist at a major newspaper, but no one at the office even notices she was gone or that she took time off because her father had just died. She's furious, feeling like she wants to destroy every single one of them for treating her like she's invisible. Then her boss, Norman, walks in and tosses his coat at her, ordering her to hang it up like she is his assistant. Rhiannon gathers the courage to tell him she wants to apply for a reporter position. But after reading her resume, he tells her she's not good enough. He says she is too timid and not cut out for the job. On her way out, he even hands her the application paperwork back and tells her to throw it in the trash. Ryan storms away, overwhelmed with anger, and starts shredding papers on her desk with a box cutter, taking all her frustration out on the paper. Right then, a young man named AJ arrives and tells her he has a meeting with Norman. Ryan watches through the office window as Norman laughs and treats AJ with respect and warmth, the exact opposite of the way he treats her. Jealousy flashes across her face, and resentment starts burning inside her. Soon after, Norman comes out to announce that AJ is officially their new reporter. Ryan snaps. She follows AJ outside, watching him closely while wishing she could make him disappear and take the job she deserved. She reaches into her pocket for the box cutter, but she accidentally cuts her own hand instead. The blade slips from her fingers and clangs loudly against the ground. AJ turns back when he hears the blade hit the ground and spots Ryan standing right behind him. She panics, freezes for a second, then quickly lies, telling him she only followed him to give him the new hire form he needs to fill out. Sensing the tension, AJ awkwardly asks if he took her job because she seems upset with him. Ryan forces a fake smile and denies it, waiting for him to walk away so she can grab the blade off the ground without him noticing. Later, as Ryan walks down the street with her dog, a car drives by and someone throws a baby diaper at her. That only throws more fuel on the fire. A moment later, she sees a giant billboard featuring Julia, a glossy real estate ad selling Julia's perfect life. Ryan's anger spikes, and without realizing it, she spirals into a visible panic. Then, tragedy strikes. She turns around and sees her dog lying motionless in the road. A speeding car has hit him and kept going. Her heart shatters again. She looks up at Julia's billboard, filled with more rage and pain than ever. She buries her dog in their garden and leaves a voicemail for Saren, her voice shaking as she tells her that she's completely alone now. She begs her sister not to sell their father's house, especially not through Julia. She pleads for Julia to stay away from her life because she won't let her ruin it again. Determined and desperate, Ryan heads to the nightclub where Julia is partying with her friends. She confronts her, telling her to back off and stay out of her life because she won't allow the sale of her father's home. But Julia responds with icy indifference. She reminds Rhiannon that selling the house was Saren's request, not hers, and she makes it clear she doesn't care about Rhiannon or her life at all. If her life is a mess, that's her own fault. To Julia, Rhiannon is invisible, a nobody who barely matters. Julia then shoves her aside mockingly. And in that moment, Rhiannon flashes back to school, remembering the day Julia pulled off her wig and exposed one of her most painful private struggles to everyone. It happened whenever she was bullied, whenever Julia made her feel worthless. Suddenly, Rhiannon snaps out of her memories and walks away shaken. She ends up sitting alone by a lake, trying to clear her head. But then, a guy named Ryan shows up and starts relieving himself right beside her. Disgusted, she confronts him only for him to mock her and say he didn't even notice she was there. His words fuel her rage even more, and she hits him out of pure frustration. That sets Ryan off. He gets aggressive and moves toward her like he's going to attack. In a sudden burst of rage, Ryan pulls out her blade and attacks him again and again, releasing years of buried fury. When it is finally over, Ryan is dead. She drags his body into the lake and hides it beneath the water, hoping it will disappear forever. Back at home, she stares into the mirror, trembling before she breaks into a raw, furious scream, as if years of pain are pouring out all at once. The next morning, Rhiannon wakes up to find dried blood on her neck. Panic takes over. It's like she can't even remember what she did, like her mind has erased the killing completely. Terrified, she throws her stained clothes into the washing machine and sits in front of it, shaking uncontrollably. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and her fear spikes again. She answers the door to find Craig, one of her father's co-workers, from the workshop. He hands her an envelope, paperwork showing transfer records because he's interested in buying the workshop from her father's estate. She stares at him silently, shocked, before taking the envelope and closing the door. Later, while riding the bus, she passes by the same lake, and her heart nearly stops when she sees police officers recovering Ryan's body from the water. Her breathing turns frantic. When she arrives at work, she nervously looks around the office. A moment later, Norman gathers everyone and asks if there's any major breaking news, saying the newspaper desperately needs a major exclusive. That's when Jeff, one of the reporters, walks in with exactly what Norman wants, the discovery of a dead body at the lake. A young man named Ryan. Norman loves the story idea. And at that very moment, Ryan makes a decision. She's going to make herself impossible to ignore. She confidently tells Norman that Ryan was murdered the night before, attacked with a sharp weapon, and to avoid looking suspicious, she claims she overheard people talking about it on the bus on her way to work. Norman then sends AJ to the crime scene to investigate, which annoys Ryan. Once again, Norman completely overlooks her. Soon after, Jeff and AJ return from the crime scene and update everyone. They reveal that the killer attacked Ryan repeatedly. Rhiannon freezes with fear for a moment, terrified that something tying her to the murder might have been found, but she relaxes when they say the police found no solid clues leading to the killer. While peeking into Jeff's notebook, Rhiannon notices messy notes and strange scribbles she can't understand. Suddenly, AJ appears right in front of her, making her jump. She nervously tells him that she feels Jeff isn't sharing everything he knows. AJ then calmly tells her he's sure the murderer will get caught soon, which sends a chill straight down her spine. She tries to defend herself by saying that half of last year's crimes are still unsolved. Later at her desk, Jeff calls her and says he needs Norman because he's found new information about Ryan. Rhiannon lies and tells him Norman is busy, but that Norman asked her to take the updates instead. She then walks straight into Norman's office and lies again, saying she has already found the full name of the victim. Ryan Lloyd, who lived with his mother in the same house. Norman raises an eyebrow, surprised. "How did you find that out?" Jeff is the one assigned to the case. Cornered again, Ryan quickly comes up with another lie, saying Jeff couldn't make it inside because his car tires had burst and that someone needs to get to Ryan's home immediately before another paper steals the scoop. Rhiannon tries to convince Norman that she should be the one to go, arguing that Ryan's mother would feel more comfortable talking to a woman. Next, we see her on her way to Ryan's house, but AJ is right beside her. He apologizes, explaining that Norman insisted he accompany her. Rhiannon snaps at him in frustration, but then quickly apologizes, saying she's been emotionally drained since her father died. AJ opens up in return, telling her that when his grandmother passed away, the person he was closest to, he became angry and violent for months. He even kicked a wall so hard he broke his toe. They finally arrive, and Ryan's mother answers the door. She's clearly upset when she hears they're from the press, but AJ handles the conversation smartly, speaking gently, expressing sympathy, helping convince her to let them in. As Ryan's grieving mother talks tearfully about her son, Ryan freezes the moment she says, "If I ever find the monster who killed him, I will make him pay." Ryan's heart pounds even faster when she learns Ryan recently had an angry confrontation with a coworker named Dave. That's when she excuses herself to go to the bathroom, but instead sneaks into Ryan's bedroom. There she finds paperwork about Ryan being fired and steals it before anyone notices. She rushes out of the house, barely breathing until the front door closes behind her. Back in the car, Ryan tells AJ they have to go see Dave immediately, then shows him the documents she took. Ryan was fired for misconduct, which to her means he might have been the kind of person who deserved what happened. AJ stares at her, disturbed by the way she said that. Realizing she went too far, Ryan quickly changes her tone, pretending she only wants a strong story to impress Norman and beat Jeff to the story. Ryan and AJ head to meet Dave, and when they tell him Ryan is dead, he's completely stunned. They reassure him he's not a suspect. They just want to know what happened between them. Dave explains that Ryan was unstable, constantly harassing him, and even spreading lies that he was dangerous around children. Ryan caused so many problems at work that once everyone realized he was just making things up, the company fired him. Later in the car, Ryan's phone buzzes. A message from Saren. She writes that Julia has found a buyer for the house, and they're on their way there right now. Ryan's eyes widen in panic. She begs AJ to drive her home immediately. Once she gets there, she rushes to the bathroom, cleaning the bathtub where her stained clothes had been. She grabs the knife she left in a pot to hide it just seconds before Julia walks in with the potential buyer. They roam through the house, checking every room while Ryan stands there, barely containing her anger. After they leave, she heads back to work to update Norman with everything she's discovered. Jeff is furious. She stole the story right out from under his nose. Norman decides they should both publish the piece together. And although Jeff hates the idea, Ryan is secretly thrilled. Her plan is working. Her day gets even better when Norman, on his way out, casually invites her to join the team for drinks to celebrate her success. Later at the bar, Ryan finally feels like she belongs. She even gets up on stage to sing, enjoying a moment where life almost feels good again until police officers suddenly walk into the bar. Rhiannon freezes, terror flashing across her face. The police want to question everyone, and she knows exactly why. Rhiannon rushes into the restroom, terrified the police might be there because of her. Inside, she finds graffiti on the wall, Rhiannon's name with an insult scrawled beside it. She actually smiles, relieved that Rhiannon clearly had many enemies besides her. But then, Officer Marina walks into the bathroom, and Rhiannon panics again, quickly slipping out before the cop notices anything strange. Back outside, she spots a waitress arguing with a man, Mike, and suddenly Rhiannon recognizes him. He's the same guy who was yelling at the nurse the night her father died, the same distraction that kept the nurse from helping him in time. Rhiannon's anger resurfaces. In her mind, this is someone who deserves punishment. She follows him outside and calls out, pretending she needs help with her cat. The moment he turns, she lunges forward and attacks him repeatedly. This time, she feels a sick sense of satisfaction and relief, as if what she did was justice. As she walks away afterward, she sees another billboard of Julia's smiling face and stares at it with burning hatred. In her mind, Julia has to be next. The next morning, Rhiannon begins stalking Julia, listing every reason she deserves to die. Julia has friends. Julia has a successful job. Julia lives comfortably in a nice home. Meanwhile, Rhiannon is miserable, ignored at work, friendless, and her own house is on the verge of being sold. Then, she realizes Julia even has a boyfriend, while no one ever seems to notice Rhiannon at all. So, Rhiannon starts planning how to get rid of Julia. She empties out her freezer and climbs inside, testing if it's big enough to hide Julia. Later, Craig calls her, apologizing for not texting after their date. He says he should have reached out sooner. Rhiannon's eyes light up. She's thrilled. She really likes Craig. She wants more than anything for him to fall for her and maybe even build a life together. Craig then asks if she'd like to go out with him that evening, and she immediately agrees, thrilled without even thinking twice. Later, Rhiannon stops by a supermarket to buy cleaning supplies. The cashier completely ignores her, chatting on her phone and laughing with a friend, calling Rhiannon a weirdo right in front of her. Humiliated and furious, Rhiannon grabs the girl's phone and drops it straight into a drink before casually walking away. Back at home, she calls Julia and invites her to come see the house freshly, cleaned and organized, hoping to get her there at night. But Julia tells her she's busy and suggests they meet tomorrow instead. So Rhiannon texts Craig, letting him know she's free tonight if he still wants to go out. He replies almost instantly. They'll meet at 7 o'clock. The next day at work, Rhiannon brings coffee and pastries for everyone, trying to act like she's part of the team. But when she sees the article about Rhiannon printed on the front page of the newspaper, she notices Jeff's name is the only one credited. She confronts him, demanding to know why he left out her name when Norman clearly said they were supposed to share the byline. Jeff laughs mockingly and tells her he wrote the actual story. She was useless. He leaves his coffee behind as he walks away. And that's when rage takes over Rhiannon again. She discreetly pours a strong laxative into his drink. Jeff returns, grabs his cup, and walks off without noticing. Suddenly, Rhiannon's mother storms into the office, furious about the article, especially the part exposing Rhiannon's lies about Dave. She yells that the story will destroy her son's reputation and make everyone hate him. Rhiannon coldly tells her that Rhiannon wasn't a good person and brought it on himself. The entire office goes silent, stunned by the coldness in her words. A moment later, Jeff begins rushing to the bathroom in obvious discomfort, where he ends up trapped there for the rest of the day. Norman decides to send Jeff home to rest and assigns Rhiannon to cover his duties for the day. Later, she gets herself ready for her date, putting on makeup and changing into nicer clothes. AJ notices her transformation. She looks confident, stylish, beautiful. He compliments her and asks if she's going to meet her boyfriend. She denies it and claims she just has work to do at her father's workshop. That night, Rhiannon waits for Craig at the restaurant, a little nervous as he arrives late. But when he finally shows up, the mood quickly becomes romantic. They end up going back to his place, and she spends the night there. The next morning, she wakes up thrilled. It was the perfect night for her, but the moment doesn't last long. She receives a call from Officer Marina asking her to come in for questioning about Ryan's death. Panic hits her hard. At the station, she sits with Marina and the lead investigator, Roy. They reassure her that this isn't an official interrogation. They're simply gathering accounts from people who were around the area, hoping someone might have seen something useful. Rhiannon nervously responds that her father and her dog both died that day, insisting she didn't witness anything unusual. When she returns to the office, she learns the police have discovered Mike's body, killed in the same way Ryan was. Fear creeps through her veins again. After work, Rhiannon heads to Craig's workshop, only to be blindsided when she sees Julia there. And then the real blow lands. Julia tells them she's no longer selling the house to the potential buyer because she's decided she wants to buy it herself. Rhiannon's whole world cracks. She storms out, but not before stealing Julia's phone. Once inside her car, she starts screaming in rage. Every ounce of anger she has exploding all at once. In a burst of rage, Rhiannon storms out of the car and slashes Julia's tire with her knife. Then she waits, watching from a distance. As soon as Craig leaves, she approaches Julia with a fake concerned smile, offering to help since her tire is suddenly damaged. Julia asks her to call an Uber instead, but Ryan warns her that a dangerous killer is out there, which scares Julia enough to agree to ride with her. Julia soon grows suspicious when she realizes Ryan is driving back to the house instead of somewhere safe. Ryan lies, saying there's a black stain in the basement she needs Julia to inspect before finalizing the house sale. Julia hesitates but follows her inside. That is when Ryan snaps and admits she is the person the police are hunting. She tells Julia that bullies like her deserve to face consequences, reminding her how she once destroyed her life and now has come back to destroy whatever is left of her life. Julia panics and tries to escape, but Ryan grabs her. The two fall into a brutal struggle. Rhiannon hits Julia with a heavy object and thinks she has killed her, but Julia is still alive. We next see Julia tied up in the basement, unable to move. She calls Ryan unstable and delusional. Ryan, shaking with fury, screams that Julia made her this way, that years of bullying pushed her over the edge. She confesses that Julia's bullying pushed her into such distress that she eventually had to wear a wig. But Julia doesn't show an ounce of remorse. Instead, she coldly tells her that she alone is responsible for what she's become. She tells her she isn't a victim. She's a killer searching for excuses. Rhiannon breaks down, too overwhelmed to speak. She covers her own mouth, trying to silence the rage inside her. Then leaves Julia tied up in the basement and walks away. Rhiannon collapses into her father's robe, holding it tight as she cries, crying out in anger and heartbreak. Then she heads to Craig's workshop to talk to him, asking if something was going on between him and Julia. He denies it and says he assumed Rhiannon already knew Julia wanted to buy the house. While there, she manages to sneak the flash drive containing the workshop's security camera footage, making sure no one can ever know. Julia got into her car last night or that Ryan slashed her tire. On the bus ride back, she leaves Saren a voice message demanding that she check with her first before selling the house to anyone. A creepy guy sits too close beside her, crowding her personal space, so she calmly places her hand on his leg and asks if that makes him uncomfortable. He panics and moves away immediately. Ryan smiles, proud that she's no longer the one being pushed around. Later at work, she walks straight into Norman's office and tells him she has new information, but she won't share it unless he promotes her to junior reporter like AJ. Forced into a corner, Norman agrees, but only as a trainee under supervision. Rand then reveals her supposed scoop, a missing woman who may have been taken by the same killer the police are after. Norman asks where the information came from. She refuses to say, hinting at a confidential source. Impressed, he assigns her to lead the story. AJ congratulates her, genuinely happy for her success. He's proud and clearly cares about her. Rhiannon basks in the moment. For once, things are finally going her way. AJ also fills her in on Mike's background. He was a greedy landlord who rented out cheap apartments to undocumented tenants and had recently kicked a single mother and her child out onto the street. In other words, Mike had a long list of enemies, and Ryan can't help but feel justified again. AJ suggests that he and Ryan go out together after work, and she can't hide how excited she is. She happily agrees. Later, Ryan starts stalking Julia's friend, Lucille, online. She sends her a message pretending to be worried because Julia isn't answering her phone. Lucille replies immediately and sends her number, begging Ryan to call. She's terrified because Julia has been missing since last night. Rhiannon acts shocked and concerned, though deep inside, she's thrilled that everyone believes Julia simply disappeared. She goes to meet Julia's friends, Lucille, Annie, and Paige. Continuing her performance as the supportive friend desperate to find Julia, she promises she'll do whatever it takes to help bring her back. Meanwhile, Officer Marina reviews the nightclub CCTV footage from the night Julia vanished. She notices the heated argument between Julia and Ryan and sees Ryan storming out visibly furious. The timestamps also prove that Ryan lied in her statement about how long she stayed there. Marina tries to contact Julia for questioning, but learns from her office assistant that Julia never showed up for work today. Back with Rhiannon, she heads to the home of Marcus, Julia's boyfriend, claiming she's writing a piece about Julia's disappearance for the newspaper. She wants to help find her as quickly as possible. Marcus invites her inside and opens up. He's a mess, angry, and scared. He has never gone a single day without hearing from Julia. For her to vanish like this, not answering calls or texts, something must be terribly wrong. He's convinced she's been kidnapped. Ryan pretends to console him, but inside she knows exactly where Julia is, and she has no intention of letting anyone find her. Ryan subtly asks Marcus if there were any recent problems or arguments between him and Julia, but he insists everything was perfect. They were fine and completely happy together. He also mentions that he reported Julia's disappearance to the police earlier that morning. Ryan then asks him for a photo of Julia to use in her article, specifically one where Julia looks sad. Marcus heads off to find a picture that fits. And while he's gone, Ryan quickly steals one of Julia's shirts. She also accidentally spills coffee on the couch, ruining it. Then sits back down looking innocent and quiet just as Marcus returns with the photo. Later at the office, Ryan is glowing with excitement. Her very first published article is out in the newspaper. She finally feels like she's seen, respected, no longer invisible. AJ is genuinely happy for her, too, proud of what she's accomplished. But suddenly, Saren calls, panicked. Julia isn't answering any of her calls, and a man named Bill is at the house right now to take measurements because he's ready to buy the property. Saren has no choice but to go meet him and hand over the key. Ryan's heart drops. She bolts out of the office and races home as fast as she can. When she arrives, she sees Bill standing at the front door, key in hand. She snatches it away from him and angrily orders him to leave, shouting that the house isn't being sold. Bill, startled by her rage, backs off and leaves without arguing. Later that evening, we see Ryan getting ready for her outing with AJ. She picks out an outfit she's extra confident in, the same shirt she stole from Julia's wardrobe, as if she's trying to become Julia or take her place completely. Ryan becomes furious, hearing Julia shouting for help, desperate for someone to find her. She storms into the basement and coldly tells Julia that screaming is pointless. She already published an article saying Julia mysteriously disappeared. No one is coming for her. She warns Julia not to underestimate her again. Julia fires back, insisting that Marcus and her friends will come looking. Then she notices the shirt Rhiannon is wearing, her shirt, and begins mocking her look and makeup. The insult triggers a new wave of rage in Rhiannon, who forces herself to stay quiet, holding everything in before she explodes. Later, Rhiannon meets AJ at a bar like they planned. But Craig suddenly shows up and sits with them. He introduces himself to AJ, then immediately asks him to leave so he can be alone with Ryan. AJ feels uncomfortable and hurt, so he leaves. Ryan tries to follow him out, but he has already disappeared. On her way home, she finds Marcus outside drunk. She helps him get back to his house, and while he isn't looking, she grabs his phone. What she sees on it shocks her. Back at home, she storms into the basement with her knife. She tells Julia she now knows the truth. Julia is a fraud. She pretends to have a perfect life, but the reality is a disaster. She reads Julia's private messages with Marcus out loud, revealing their toxic relationship full of fights and control. Ryan is convinced that Julia has ruined Marcus' life, just like she ruined hers years ago. Julia finally breaks down, sobbing. She admits Marcus is controlling and abusive. He's the one who destroys everything, not her. Rhiannon is thrown off, confused, but not fully convinced. Meanwhile, Officer Marina reads Rhiannon's article about Julia's disappearance and becomes even more suspicious. The next morning, she meets with her superior and lays out all the pieces. Julia Ryan's friend from school is missing. Ryan reported it in the media before Marcus even called the police. Ryan fought with Julia at the club, then left at the exact time Ryan was murdered. Mike was killed the same night Rhiannon was at the bar where he was last seen alive. Everything points to one horrifying possibility. All the victims are connected to Ryan, and now Julia might be next. Marina continues explaining that she noticed Ryan's struggles with being unnoticed, and it's very possible she may be hurting people just to be noticed. Her superior instructs her to go question Marcus. Meanwhile, Ryan is sitting and eating with Julia. Julia tells her that Marcus will keep searching until he finds her, but Ryan tells her he won't because by then it will be too late. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Ryan becomes extremely nervous. She warns Julia not to speak or make any sound because if she does, Ryan will hurt whoever is at the door and then hurt Julia too. Rhiannon goes to open the door and is surprised to find AJ there. He tells her Norman sent him because she wasn't answering. She explains that she sent Norman a message saying she was sick and couldn't come to work today. She asks AJ to tell Norman she'll be back tomorrow. And when she thanks him for checking on her, he responds coldly, saying he only came because Norman asked him to. Suddenly, AJ hears a sound coming from inside the house, and Rhiannon becomes visibly tense. AJ assumes Craig is there with her, which upsets him, so he leaves. When Rhiannon returns to the basement, she sees the plate shattered on the floor. Julia quickly says it fell off the table on its own. Then Julia suddenly attacks Rhiannon and injures her with scissors she managed to grab while Rhiannon was gone. She tries to throw pieces of broken glass at her, and they struggle violently until Rhiannon grabs a broomstick and strikes back hard. Then she puts Julia in the bathtub to help her regain consciousness from the blow. And Julia tells her that she reminded her of Marcus because the last time he hit her, he hurt her badly during an argument. But Rhiannon angrily denies being anything like Marcus, saying she's only dealing with bullies like Julia. She talks to her and asks why she was so cruel to her back in school. Julia confesses that she hated herself and bullied Ryan to make her hate herself, too. She says she was jealous because Rhiannon was loved and had her father with her, and hurting her made her feel happy and relieved. She apologizes for everything she did to her. At that moment, Ryan gets a message from Craig telling her that the police are at his workshop because Julia's car was found parked there before she vanished. Meanwhile, Marina is at Craig's workshop questioning his co-workers because the police discovered Julia's car in that location. She notices a security camera there, and when she searches Craig's office, the flash drive containing the security footage is missing, which makes her realize someone took it to get rid of the evidence. That night, Julia sees Rhiannon dressed up and ready to go out to meet Craig. Julia offers to help her with her makeup to make her look better. Ryan agrees, and Julia briefly considers using the eyeliner to escape, but she hesitates and doesn't do it. When Ryan arrives at Craig's house, she finds he has prepared dinner for her himself. She talks to him about Julia and tells him she doesn't want him to tell the police during questioning that she was with both him and Julia on the night Julia disappeared. She tells him she had an event to film at that time and didn't go, and she lied to her boss, saying she did. If he finds out she deceived him, he might fire her. Craig believes her. The next day at work, Norman asks Rhiannon to write a detailed article about Julia, including what she likes and dislikes, and tells her AJ will help her with it. Rhiannon becomes anxious when she learns Jeff met Marcus and talked about her. Later, Rhiannon and AJ go to see Julia's friends, who formed a team to search for her. There, she sees Jeff and Marcus talking together and focusing on her, which makes her uneasy. At that moment, Officer Marina arrives and talks to Julia's friends, asking about Rhiannon, and is surprised when they say she's not their friend and that they used to bully her back in high school. Marina's suspicions about Rhiannon increase. She goes to Rhiannon to talk and tries to coax information out of her, telling her she must be a very kind person to have forgiven Julia for what she did to her in school and to be helping find her. Now, AJ is confused because Rhiannon never mentioned knowing Julia at all, and Rhiannon becomes extremely tense. Suddenly, Marcus approaches angrily and confronts her, saying he knows she stole Julia's shirt from his house and threatens to have her fired from work. AJ steps in to help and protect her, but she snaps at him and tells him to stay away because he's obsessed with her. Rhiannon then chases after Marcus and pulls out her knife, intending to kill him, but at that moment, Jeff sees her and is shocked. He runs away before she can reach him, and she chases after him. By bad luck, a bus suddenly comes and hits him, ending his life instantly. After that, Rhiannon goes to the lake, planning to throw the knife away and get rid of it. But she receives a threatening message from Marcus, so she changes her mind, keeps the knife, and leaves. She then goes to Julia and decides to make a deal. She will forgive her, but only if Julia helps her take Marcus down since she said he hurts her and treats her violently. She accuses him of kidnapping her and hurting her more than once. Julia agrees, but she is hesitant. Rhiannon tells her she will tie her up in another place and make Marcus come and leave his fingerprints on the knife. Then she'll call the police to catch him red-handed. She warns Julia not to trick her or play any of her usual games. Then Rhiannon leaves the house with Julia to carry out their plan. They arrive at a house Marcus owns where there is a security alarm system. Rhiannon ties Julia up inside and places the knife near her. When Marcus arrives after the alarm goes off, he is shocked to see Julia tied up. As usual, he doubts her and accuses her of being involved with the person who kidnapped her and cheating on him. He turns on her in a jealous rage. At that moment, Rhiannon appears and orders him to leave Julia alone after she has already called the police. Marcus breaks down, crying out of fear that Julia will leave him, and he threatens to hurt himself. When Rhiannon feels that Julia might believe him and take his side, she decides to push him, and he falls to his death. At the same time, the police arrive and Rhiannon warns Julia not to say anything except what they agreed on. She is surprised when Marina comes with the officers, and Marina's look at her is full of suspicion. Then Rhiannon is seen at the police station, staring at Marina, wishing she could kill her and make her disappear. Marina then questions Rhiannon and tells her that her situation is difficult because there is no explanation for why she was there with Julia at that moment. Rhiannon replies that she found the address of that house by accident at Marcus' place and suspected Julia was there. Her suspicion turned out to be correct, especially since she already knew Marcus treated Julia harshly and before he killed himself. He threatened both her and Julia that he would kill them just like he did with Rhiannon and Mike. When Marina shows her a picture of the knife, Rhiannon tells her that it was Marcus and that he threatened them with it. But Marina is surprised because the knife is a woodworking knife used by carpenters, and she suspects it belonged to Rhiannon's father since he was a carpenter. And because she loved him and was attached to him, she likely kept it. And when she found out that Julia, who ruined her life, wanted to buy her house, which was the only thing left of her father, she lost her mind and became someone unrecognizable. Rhiannon breaks down and denies every accusation. When Marina questions Julia, she finds that Julia repeats exactly the same story as Rhiannon, that Marcus threw himself down the stairs to avoid going to prison. And when she shows her a picture of the knife, Julia lies and claims it belonged to Marcus. Afterward, Marina argues with her supervisors because they don't believe that Rhiannon is a serial killer. They think she is harmless and innocent, pretending to be weak so everyone will trust her. The next day, Rhiannon is released due to lack of evidence proving she is behind the killings. When she arrives home, she finds Julia at her door, telling her she doesn't know where to go to escape the reporters who are following her everywhere. Julia appears nervous and worried because they planned and lied to the police, but Rhiannon assures her that they will be fine. They go out together at night, trying to start fresh and become friends. Julia takes Rhiannon's bank card to withdraw money since Marcus had canceled her own card when she disappeared. Afterwards, Rhiannon dances and is extremely happy. Meanwhile, Marina sneaks into Rhiannon's house and searches for any evidence that can support her suspicions. She finds in a drawer the flash drive containing the surveillance footage that Rhiannon stole from Craig's office at the workshop. When Marina checks it, she sees footage of Rhiannon slashing Julia's car tires. She becomes very happy because she has finally found evidence linking Ryan to the crime. The next day, Rhiannon is sitting on the roof with Julia and suggests that Julia stay with her and take Saren's room. At that moment, she receives a message from AJ confessing his love for her, which makes Rhiannon happy. When she enters the house, she is shocked to find Marina in front of her. Marina tells her she found the surveillance footage and now has evidence against her, and she knows Ryan will hurt someone else. Rhiannon responds defiantly, showing no fear. Then Rhiannon goes to work with Julia, and her status at work has completely changed. Everyone treats her like a hero because she saved Julia. Julia sits with Rhiannon and all the co-workers in the office to tell them about what she suffered with Marcus. Suddenly, Julia becomes uncomfortable and decides to leave, which makes Ryan anxious and scared. But Julia reassures her that she's fine and that she will go to her house to get her things. Then goes to Craig at the workshop and is surprised that he wants her to sell him the workshop and is determined to take it from her in any way. He even has the contract ready for her to sign. She is forced to sign it because she is afraid Craig will tell the police she was with him and Rhiannon the night she disappeared. Meanwhile, Rhiannon is at the store ignoring calls from Saren. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door and she finds AJ and she decides to tell him she broke up with Craig. It's clear she has fallen in love with AJ and he becomes very happy. The next morning, Ryan tries to reach Julia since she hasn't responded since yesterday. She leaves her a voice message asking where the bank card is because she received a message that a large amount of money was withdrawn. When she returns, AJ tells her that a police officer friend sent him a picture of the weapon used by the serial killer. When AJ sees the picture of the knife, he remembers it's the same one Ryan always had at the office, and he suspects she is behind the killings, not Marcus, as she and Julia claimed. Ryan tries to calm him down, but AJ searches the whole house for the knife and can't find it, which increases his suspicion. She is forced to confess what she did, that she was a bad person, but she has changed and her life changed because of him. AJ responds by calling her a monster. Rhiannon breaks down, crying, begging him not to leave her and to stay by her side. But AJ keeps pushing her away, trying to leave. At that moment, Rhiannon grabs a kitchen knife and fatally attacks AJ while screaming that she is not a monster. Suddenly, Saren arrives at the house and Rhiannon is shocked. The series ends without releasing a new season.